And Chardonnay, which is what we're going to taste now.
Here we are. Yep. Personally, my favourite. I love Chardonnay. In particular, I love Marlborough Chardonnay. This is 2010. This was probably bottled about 4 months ago, so I think it's really just starting to hit its straps.
Right. Okay.
From a Wither Hills style, we've really backed off, I suppose, in the last 4 years from those great days of a lot of oak and malo and lees stirring and all that type of jazz. And we've really, as our vines have got older, we've seen that they actually, and we've probably become a bit more comfortable. We've seen they can handle themselves a bit more structurally.
So you're a bit more hands off, and
I don't know whether I've got lazier or whether I'm
just
as you get older and understand a bit more.
Yeah. Because it is quite tight on the nose, but it may be something to do also with the glasses. As soon as we are kind of like trapped.
We are trapped in a small bunker.
Yeah.
So I'm really working, I suppose, towards that sort of grapefruit pith, slightly onion skin flesh, the brown paper pit.
Yeah.
But also Marlborough does give you those lovely citrus, lime or grapefruit notes. So we're not going to hit pear or peach like we do further up the country. Unless we really start manipulating it and working it, and then you're playing with higher alcohols and that type of jazz. So it's all barrel fermented, it's all French oak, but it's only about 20% new.
Right. Okay. So, and what was the regime before, like 40, 50?
Yeah, 06 or 07 would have been 45 to 50%, and it would have seen probably 14 months in oak, whereas this we're backing off a bit there too. So we're
down to about 10 or something.
Yeah, 10 and a bit.
Yeah.
So I think just being a bit more confident with the fruit out of Marlborough, and being confident with the a Marlborough style, which I think, not that we'll ever be Chablis, but I think we more skewed that way a little bit than into that more fatter Meursault, that sort of, if you're talking, Burgundy.
Yeah. Which is, I do talk Burgundy, but then for me, I hear myself and I think, God, what an idiot, because it is New Zealand wine.
True.
And it's New Zealand soil and terroir and everything, and we will never be able to beat Burgundy.
No.
But I do have that as a benchmark in comparison.
Yes.
Probably like most people.
Yeah, look, I agree. I mean, even with Pinot, you can say, well, it's Burgundy-esque or anything, but you also need perhaps not a benchmark you're going to achieve, but something you stylistically or comfortable emulating.
It's a lot tighter.
Yeah, it is.
Because I haven't drunk Wither Hills for quite a while. I used to drink quite a bit when I first came over, because it's kind of like New Zealand Sauvignon, whoa.
Yeah.
And Wither Hills, and there are a few others there in my kind of early years of being over here.
Yeah.
Used to chug along on a few bottles of that. And then I really got sick and tired of Sauvignon with the change that to me seemed to happen in 04. And then that really put me off. And then I was doing less shopping in grocery, supermarkets, and so kind of Wither Hills didn't really hook me.
Yeah.
And it's quite nice to actually now taste it again with someone who's behind the brand.
Yeah, look, it's funny. I think when I was a young fella years and years ago, that for me, and before joining Wither Hills in '98, the wine that I really enjoyed was the Chardonnay. It was sort of think back in '92, '94. It was sort of the Chardonnay that was really pulling some great punches, And obviously the style's changed a little bit. We've probably leaned it up and made it a bit more focused.
And it does. This tastes quite focused.
Yeah.
And I've got that kind of almost flinty mineral kind of character at the end.
Yep. And I think we've got some pretty cool vineyard sites. One site which would there's a few of our other aromatics come off. The Rarangi site, I think, delivers some of that minerality. We've got some quite old vines in there at the moment, although we just pulled them out last year, but they were sort of 25-year-old Mendoza Chardonnay.
Right, okay.
And we're really trying to focus on that sort of Mendoza fruit as our basis.
Yeah.
Which I think delivers you that sort of that focus and acid drive. If you can get that acid ripe, I think you're halfway there.
Yeah. And then the Pinot?
Yeah, so the Pinot, it's 2009.
So is this your current release? 09?
Yes, it is. Yep.
Right, okay.
Yep. It's 09's current release.
And how long is this in oak?
About 14 months. 14
right,
to 15
okay.
months is the 09. Sorry, it's a bit rude of me, wasn't it?
No.
Pouring it myself.
Jeez, no.
Yeah?
I'm used to pouring it for others.
So we've over the years too, we've learned to keep our hands off this as well. I've got a pretty smart female winemaker that sort of taught me that. Humans tend to stuff things up if they fiddle with them. So we're really trying to promote that Marlborough style, which I think is that cherry spice lift. It may get into dark plum, but I think we see more of that further south with Wild Thyme, which is fantastic from a style point of view. I believe Marlborough has fantastic tannin linearity, or like train tracks, and that delivers a great platform to build all your fruit around and your silky tannins around.
So if you could make Pinot anywhere in the country, would it be Marlborough?
Yeah, it would be. Yeah. Simple answer, isn't
it? Yeah, very. Because I know that like Central Otago's got all the notoriety for being kind of carrying the Pinot flag for the country.
Yep.
I think there are certain vineyards plotted around Central that I think make really good Pinot.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of Pinot that's made on the back of it being Central Otago and doesn't really deliver, especially price point wise.
Yep.
And then there's obviously Whiteborough, which I'm quite a fan of, and Martinborough, which are fairly similar to me.
Yep.
And then there's Marlborough, which kind of like seems to be the poor cousin of all those other regions, but I think still delivers fantastic Pinot.
Yep.
But it's so often overlooked.
Yeah, I think it's probably our own fault. I think we were chasing a tiger by the tail called Sauvignon Blanc, and
still seems to be that way.
Yeah, every variety after that sort of got missed or just sort of into the background a little bit. So there's probably only a handful of producers in Marlborough that still concentrated on making really smart Pinot through those last 10 years, and there's now more coming into play and really focusing on the noble variety.
Because that latest harvest report was 75% of all New Zealand wine was made in Marlborough.
Mm-hmm.
And of that, 75% was Sauvignon Blanc.
Correct.
I mean, that seems
fairly skewed.
Yeah. All eggs in one basket.
Yeah, it's a bit of a Henry Ford, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, I mean, at Witherhills, we've made a conscious play to actually really drive those other three varieties that we make.
Yeah.
Pinot Gris, Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, and at least try to get to if we can, a 65 to 70% mix. You'll find, I suppose, a lot of wineries up around 85%. But we're wanting to do it properly. I mean, Pinot, as you know, if you treat it poorly or overcrop it, it shows all its warts. So you've still got to be you've still got to be very focused on crop load and handling.
Yeah. And this is a multi-site.
It's effectively only off two sites.
Right. Okay.
And the Morven vineyard and the Taylor River vineyard. And in 2007 we set aside 2 parcels off each of that vineyard, which we'll try soon.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, but effectively they make up a 60-40 mix into this wine. One's quite masculine and structural and brooding, which you get out of that, some of those black cherry notes.
Yeah.
And the other ones have got all those lovely high note, more spicy red cherry sort of characters, and fill that sort of silky mid palate out.
And for me, I do get that kind of tannin structure on this.
Yeah.
But it's it's quite a soft cocoa tannin at the back. Now again.
Yep.
Yeah. Around.
I think oak selection's important if you're going to use oak.
Yeah.
So we use a sort of a medium toast sweet oak, but it's what I'm into is more getting that fruit tannin and getting fine, almost like when you dice up anything really carrots, so they're really fine, and the tannins are going across your tongue, but they're giving you great direction. Yeah. So they're sort of fine tannins, but they're there. You can see them.
Yeah.
You can taste them.
Yeah. And so how does that, price point wise, how does that differ from the two single vineyards?
This recommended retail is about, you're asking a winemaker now, is about $35.
Right, okay, yeah.
And the 2 single vineyard wines are just nudging on 50.
Right, okay.
So they're not totally, out of reach. I want people to be able to drink them and know them and learn about them. And
I mean, that's your average central price.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they sit there.
Yeah, so they'll sit in there.
Yeah. And volume-wise, pretty small.
Single vineyard's pretty small. There's 2 of them, and they're about 200 cases each made in 2007.
Wow.
In 2008 we made about the same, and they're still lying down resting. in the winery.
It's quite funny because you think of Lion Nathan and Wither Hills as being this massive operation. Obviously, it is for Sauvignon.
Yes, yeah.
But then when you're talking 200 cases for Pinot,
Yep.
of single vineyard, that's pretty small.
Yeah, it is. I think Pinot's a pretty special variety, and it's I was going to say it's site specific, but I think each site can express some wonderful nuances of the great Pinot, and it's great to be able to show that. And then this being a two-site, to me the blend works really well in harmony as well.
So the golden question: if you could make any wine or any wine style, what would it be?
Not to use the French word, but it'd be Burgundy, red and white.
Yeah, I can handle it. Right, and we're gonna do this in 3 parts. So kind of like the next part, there's gonna be 2 Rieslings, which are single site Rieslings. Is that the order you want to do it in?
Yeah, we do that. Yeah. That sounds great.
So these Rarangi and
Kersley.
What are the big difference between the two?
Well, basically they're on the same longitude.
Yeah.
So Rarangi is at the northeastern tip of the Wairau Valley.
Right. Okay.
So
yeah.
right on the coast. It's a pretty unique site. It's got no topsoil. It missed all that sort of alluvial flooding action that came down the Wairau Valley over the last couple of hundred thousands of years. And it's sort of old seabed, so it's got no topsoil.
Right. Okay.
It's sort of little pea gravels.
So what's that going to give me in
Well, hopefully we can see it'll give you that sort of minerality or sea salt sort of notes. Because Riesling's pretty pure. It's like a mirror looking at the soil. Some more soil characteristics. It has great sort of phenolics, so we've purposely left some of those in because I think it delivers something different in a Riesling. So they're not bitter; they're just sort of chewy. Yeah. And that sort of lime citrus notes. Yeah. So quite for me, non-Marlborough. Marlborough tends to me, you tend to sometimes get into those more slight ginger notes.
There's someone at the door.
We've been caught.
Don't know. We can stop this, and it may be important.
Could be my brother. No, I'm fine, thanks. So no, she's like our beat turned down.
I will chop that bit out. And so Kersley.
And Kersley's basically as the Wairau came down, it would east south, and it would flood Blenheim, the township. Right. Okay. Hence Blenheim being called Beavertown a few years ago. Yeah. And so it's all on that beautiful silt country. So in the old days it was market gardening country. Right. Okay. So quite deep silt. You could say it's actually borders the Apawa River. So it's on the opposite side to say Lawson. So if you know those Lawson's aromatics, it's similar soil type. Okay. In regards to what they deliver. So really nice soil, great delivery, quite pungent. It's that sort of Dillon's Point region. Yeah. So talking Sauvignon, they get some real intensity of herbaceousness and sort of file work as well. And age-wise, how long can you lay them down for? Well, I'm happy to lay them down for another 5-6 years. Right. What we are doing though is we're bottling them, obviously year of vintage. So the 09s were bottled late July. Right. Okay. Yeah. But we leave them down for a year, so they'll only just they're only halfway through their release date. So I like seeing Marlborough Riesling in particular having a year off before releasing.